Hey guys, Kai here with TransformYourGame.net, and today I am back with my top 8 deck profile for the Alpha Trion Invitational. Basically, in order to qualify for that Invitational, you needed to be, you need to qualify in one of their previous events where you had to get top 8 or have an invite passed down to you. So basically, you have to do as well as possible in order to get an invite to this single elimination tournament. So there were 32 players in this event, and I happened to get top 8. I'm currently knocked out when I'm recording this, and I don't know where Richard and Christian are. If you don't know, Christian is part of the Transform Your Game team now, for the most part. But don't know where they are sitting particularly in the banner right now, but they are still in the tournament. Christian knocked me out, so hopefully one of them wins. We'll see what that ends up being, but back to the deck profile. So what I ended up playing was Preceptor, and we were playing him with Briscoe for the plus 3 HP. We're playing Autobot Jazz with his ATP-1 stratagem, Here's the Thing, and then we're playing Decepticon Pounce because this boy's still beefy. So this is one of the, once all of the ATP-1 stratagems were revealed, this was one of the most talked about lineups for the Alpha Trion protocols, like that people were thinking of bringing for the tournament. One of the things that prevented them from, a lot of people from doing so, is because all three of them want to live. They don't really want, you don't really have an efficient quote unquote first person that you want to send out. I was fine with it because I knew that I'd wanted Jazz to be first because I wanted them to throw their resources into Jazz first so that Pounce and Perceptor would be able to just cause problems for them later down the game. Didn't really happen as much as I would have anticipated because a lot of people ended up ignoring Jazz whenever they could and just went for Pounce, but that's kind of just how the cookie crumbles, I guess. But basically, if you don't know, Jazz with his stratagem allows you to now, whenever Jazz is on the battlefield, his stratagem allows you to turn all blacks when one of your characters is defending from black to white. So it allows him to proc his ability easier, but also prevents you from taking the pierce damage from orange-black decks or just orange decks in general, since they are playing some blacks. There is some downside to it because those blacks also become whites for your opponent, so they could hit bigger numbers than that you may have originally been able to block. But that is part of the reason for why it is balanced, as well as the fact that Jazz can be burst down because he only has 10 HP. There were a lot of times where my opponent had Scoundrel's Blaster, Superior Jetpacks, or Fusion Boards, and Jazz did not live for very long whenever that happened. So it is still pretty balanced in my opinion. There is some bias there because I did help make the card, but I think the card is still very balanced and playable, and we have already seen the metagame play around Jazz since he was the most talked about card getting a buff from the ATP-1 releases. But basically allows you to not have to deal with the orange-black decks as badly, and gives you a fighting chance enough. Like it's not going to last because Jazz will die eventually. He only has 10 HP, but it gives you enough chance to set up one or your two guys and start winning the game that way. So with that being said, we can just go into the deck profile real quick. Alright, so for our weapons, we are playing 3 Handheld Blaster, 2 Fusion Bore, 2 Energon Axe, 2 Sturdy Javelin, 1 Noble's Blaster, and 1 Scoundrel's Blaster. We're playing the 1-1 simply because this is another copy of Scoundrel's Blaster for Preceptor, but also just sometimes we need a weapon on Jazz, and having a green weapon that Jazz can put on is pretty useful. But Scoundrel's Blaster is easily the more important of the two because it deals with opposing Jazz, as well as giving you the Pierce 2 against Jetfires and Perceptors and whatnot, because Autobots are more plentiful now than they were previously, so useful there. Also good against Jazz, but still just the best blue weapon in the game. Like, there's still just no question how strong this Energon Axe is. So 2 fusion bores for Jazz, of course, but also it turns into white for our Jazz. So it allows us to play a little less blacks, but still be more, or less whites, and still be more aggressive. 2 sturdy javelin. This one didn't come up as often as for the direct damage option, because usually by the time I could put it on, it wasn't going to kill a character when Perceptor was swinging, and it usually just ended up on Pounce or Jazz because +2 is still pretty decent. But yeah, it still did its job as a natural white, especially once Jazz died. So because I usually for some reason I always end up flipping 2 or 3 javelins in a game. I don't know why. It's one of my curses. We're playing 2 Hollow Matter, 2 Enhanced Power Cell, 1 Point Position, 1 Crushing Size, and 1 Debilitating Crystal. 2 Hollow Matter is 4 Quake. I don't think you really need more than 1, but you do need 2 if you're expecting Quake. And Quake was one of the decks that lost the least in this format. So yeah, 2 for Quake. Enhanced Power Cell is also very good. You could put it on Jazz to make him live longer, which happened once or twice, as well as putting it on Pounce or one of your other guys. And yeah, just being able to just do more, live longer, makes them much more impactful. So very solid. Also whites for Jazz, quote unquote. Point Position didn't really come up as much as I would have liked it to. Probably could have played more if I really felt the Brave was needed, but it just didn't come up as much. It was more for the pips than anything, but also just a potential Brave to come in every now and then. But I ended up just swapping it for the most part for a green, usually like Hollow Matter or something. Crushing Size is more important now than ever because Pierce 1 for Jazz, of course, but also just being able to get rid of utilities like Enhanced Power Cells and whatnot is pretty solid. And the Debilitating Crystal is main deck for Jazz, or not Jazz, for Jetfire, because you can't scrap their upgrades. Well, you can't scrap their weapons. You can't scrap their weapons. You can't scrap their armors and utilities. So being able to just bounce their Ghost Shield or Superior Jetpack back to their hand and them having to stall around in order to play those cards is pretty solid, as well as just getting in there, bouncing an armor, and just swinging for a 16 with Jazz, with Perceptor, because that's just what he does. So yeah, pretty solid list. For our actions, we're playing 3 Security Checkpoint, 3 Spy Master's Ruse, 3 Cayman Crash, 2 Showing Off, 1 Disarm, and 1 Brainstorm. So Spy Master's Ruse I'm playing 3 of because just flipping this card by itself means that you proc Jazz. Even though you don't get the second white for combat reasons, you still get it for ability reasons. So this is a 1 card proc for Jazz. It came up a few times during round 1 when I played against Dinobots, but yeah, it's pretty solid altogether. I think it's better for a Pounce Jazz deck that's 4 wide. That's something I'm looking into for future tournaments, but for Perceptor, I think 2 is still just fine because you just see it more often. Like, one of the reasons I probably lost against Quake really early on was because I just saw all 3 of these like before turn 1, so I just didn't get the chance to spread out my whites or whatnot. So yeah, it's very good, but I think for this build it could have just gone down to 2 pretty easily. 3 Cayman Crash, very, very solid still, and the fact that it now turns white for Jazz is just very, very strong. Just 2 Showing Off. I just wanted to limit the amount of blanks that we have to play, because that's just one of the most annoying things about blue now. You have to play so many blanks because of how strong they are, like this Hollow Matter Projector, as well as various other ones that turn blank once Jazz die. So I just wanted to decrease that amount, and I only played 2. It was still pretty solid, but this other Spy Master Ruse could easily just be the 3rd Showing Off for all intents and purposes. 1 Brainstorm because it's still very solid. In Perceptor decks, you're just getting a huge amass of cards, so just being able to have an outlet to use multiple cards in a turn is very, very solid. and it came up 8 times. And then we have Disarm as well for Jetfire, because Jetfire is very, very strong now due to him not being able to scrap his armors or utilities, and him being able to just constantly grab stuff and move them onto the appropriate character. Disarm is just very, very good against that. Resets their progress, and then as well as putting Ghost Shields and Superior Jetpacks back into their hands so that they can't play them as easily anymore. So that's it for the regular actions. For secret actions, we're playing 2 End Hostilities, 2 Sabotage Armaments, 2 Hidden Fortification, 2 Stable Cover, and 1 Hold the Line. Hidden Fortifications is back in the deck for the fact that if you see this early enough, you just play it and then you just let your Jazz live longer, because it's more relevant when Jazz is alive. Much less relevant when Jazz is not alive, because then they're just piercing you down anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's mainly for the orange decks that I was potentially seeing. It didn't come up as much as I thought, but when I played it, it was pretty solid. Sabotage Armaments and End Hostilities are what they are. Chose 2 Stable Cover instead of 1 Take Cover and 1 Stable Cover, because just being able to turn off Pierce against Jazz is pretty solid. So we just played 2 with that, and also it's just better. This is better against Blue than Take Cover is. Blue just isn't playing that much direct damage, but yeah, that's pretty solid. And then 1 Hold the Line for Quake, mainly because that's the main Titan deck now. Just being able to play Hold the Line against one of their heads is very, very solid and very necessary for you to win the matchup, since you're only 4 wide to their 6 wide. So yeah, that's the secret actions. For our side deck, we are playing Crankcase. Crankcase is mainly there for the fact that we side out our Jazz, and we just play Perceptor and Pounce, and then we just have 3 big bodies to deal with blue decks. So blue decks can focus down one of them. Say they focus down Pounce, then they still have to deal with an 8 attack Crankcase and a whatever big number Perceptor. So it basically just adds more threats to the deck, as well as giving you 3 threats against Metroplex, which is pretty important, because you won't be able to flip Perceptor as often as you would like. You probably get 1 flip, unless you get a showing off for 2, and then you would just get Crankcase to biggen them out, and then just start being able to hopefully one-shot his characters that way. Alright, so then we're playing 2 Armed Hovercraft, 1 Energon Mace, 1 Enemy Combat Analysis, 2 Belligerence, 2 Take Cover, 1 Counter Espionage, and 1 End Hostilities. These, I'm not really... This is a pretty last-minute list, so these probably didn't need to be there, but it could have been like showing off and something else, but I had these in there, never sided them, so they're pretty flex spots. Energon Mace is also for Jazz. Originally it was heavy-handed, but I wanted something also for Jetfire, or that could give you +3 attack against Jetfire and Grimlock. So Energon Mace was pretty solid in that aspect. We'll talk about this in a little bit. 2 Belligerents, because you're a blue deck and you're going to be playing against other blue decks, so why would you not want to turn off their defenses? 2 Take Covers for Quake, because you just want them to play Counter Espionage and Bashing Shields all day instead of their actual cards, so that you can hopefully win that way, but it doesn't always happen. But yeah, Counter Espionage, you're playing a lot of blue mirrors, they're going to be playing secret actions, you can counter them easy. And 1 End Hostilities for against Belligerents. Pretty simple. And then for Enemy Combat Analysis, so one of the most important things to note for why this is played is because Perceptor along with Briscoe is 10 stars. And that is a very, very, very important number, because with the release of ATP-1 stratagems, we now have 3 new characters that are more relevant than ever before because of these stratagems, and that is Jetfire, Grimlock, Bumblebee, Legendary Warrior. These three all got significant boosts thanks to their stratagems, and these 2 specifically were played a lot. There was a Bumblebee or 2, I don't remember the exact amount, but there was still a Bumblebee played in the event at least. So not to mention there were also potential Perceptors with Briscoe and Quake with the Grax. So that's 5 different characters that you have that is potentially 10 stars. So being able to give +2 attack, +2 defense against when Perceptor is battling those characters is very, very good, and was able to deter my opponent from attacking Perceptor enough to where he was able to just become a problem later down the line. The +2 defense is just crazy, unreal, especially with Perceptor. Like, he just becomes 3 defense in this mode, and then if he has a Holomatic Projector, he's 4. So that's already a lot to deal with initially before flips. So my opponents just decided not to deal with that immediately, and Perceptor ended up getting too big for them to deal with later down the line. So, but yeah, that's the idea for enemy combat analysis. There's just so many 10 stars now in the metagame that if you're playing a 10-star character, you probably should consider this, if at least just for the mirror. So yeah, that is the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed playing in this metagame. It is much more enjoyable than the Wave 5 metagame thus far. Blue has somewhat of a fighting chance now, and thanks to things like Perceptor, or thanks to Jazz being able to stop Black Pips from being somewhat relevant, as well as Jetfire with Holomatic Projectors that can't be scrapped. So yeah, it's looking forward to more of the tournaments. I'm hoping to do pretty well in the next Vector Sigma tournament, the Alpha. It's Titan 1 for the October. I think it'll have started already before this video gets posted. So hopefully one of us will top on that, and then I'll get a deck profile to you guys for that. But this is Kai with TransformingGame.net, and talk to you guys later.